Maybe one of the common grounds or one of the agreements that one of the places that we all agree that was like an expression, like an undoubted expression of experimental cinema in Latin America was Claudio Caldini. So I don't like to say much about his work. Actually, I prefer not to address his work with words. I just refer you to experience his films, and maybe he's want to say a couple of words. So, Claudio Caldini.
Thank you. I'm delighted to be here. Thanks for your welcome. I am a man of few words. I just want to say that in the second part that are programmed with video pieces made with Super 8 film, we added a bonus track in the end. That is a very, very short film that is of the latest I have done. But I want to say that also that I have started to make my own music for my films in 1985, 86. But one of the films that are in the program called Dwarf in the Garden, I have remained there. The music dejé la música que originalmente grabé desde discos, que hoy sería un lugar común utilizar esa música para musicalizar un film Super 8, pero la dejé por un interés de percibir la manera en que trabajé con el sonido en esa pieza, que era sonorizar largas unidades, luego cortarlas y dejar que los cortes abruptos del sonido aparecieran en el lugar donde cayeran. Eso es. That's all that I wanted to say, and some of the films are silent. Thank you very much. We will talk. Well, thank you very much. I must say only one thing. First is that my films are the less Latin American of the whole program. Ismo. And do you want to start with the translation of the Changshu reading?
From quartet?
From quarteto, yes. It means the purpose of words is to transmit ideas. And when the ideas has been understood, words are forgotten. Where can I find a man who has forgotten the words? With him, I would like to speak. After say that, please speak. It is an overwhelming phrase.
That was 1978, right?
1978, yes. Yes, I was inspired by the reading of course, of the Shangsu, but
it's about 20 seconds long. It's very loud.
Yeah.
Continue. It'll end in a second.
Okay.
Yeah, we've been dealing with this for 3 months. There's been a play next door. We love Machine Project, but it brings us sorrow and joy. Tonight, and after this last rumble, I think we'll be.
It is perfect.
30 minutes. Yeah.
Thank you. Well, I was saying that I was inspired by the reading of treat about Taoist aesthetics. that the 4 principles of that aesthetic was empathy, vital rhythm, reticence, and emptiness. And I was trying to reflect that on the looking of the plants, the trees, and the flowers, and
You said that you was like your work is probably the less Latin American from the other works in Islamism.
yes, well, I have seen there is almost no Spanish there.
And would you like to maybe tell us about how was your relationship with the other, Argentinian filmmakers at the time, in '78 at the time?
Well, yeah. I liked a lot some of the industrial filmmakers, and I have studied in the National Institute of Cinematography, and I learned with a very famous filmmaker of classic films, Argentinian feature films, called Mario Soffici. He was my professor. And when I started making films, I started meeting other experimental filmmakers, and I found that I have a neighbor that was doing Super 8 experimental films. And I participate a lot in his films, including a film of 3 hours where I play him as an actor. And then there we were all students, art students, and other filmmakers, and his films were much more Argentinian than mine.
Who was it?
Horacio Valereggio. He was my neighbor.
And then you were collaborating within the group Cinex.
Yes, well, the Cinex came after 3 or 4 years after. The Cinex was founded by Marie-Louise Aleman and Narcisa Hirsch, and they were doing her own films also. And it was more a group that meet around the Goethe Institute, and we were very strong individualities, each one of the group, but we share equipment and mainly the meetings for screening films in the Goethe Institute. It lasts from 1974 to 1983. And well, the Institute gave us a lot of support and organized this screening each 2 weeks, and 2 festivals of Super 8 experimental film with prizes, and it lasts almost all the dictatorship time. And we have 3 seminars, 2 with Argentinian filmmakers from the independent film scene, not necessarily experimental, and with 2 German filmmakers, Bernard Neckes in 1980 and Bernard Schroeter in 1983. But after 1978, the group started to dissolve, and each one was working in his own.
Just to before opening to the audience, just to expand in that idea of if it's Latin American, if it's Argentinian, yesterday we were talking about a quote from Borges, right? Which he mentions when he's trying to solve a problem, which is a tradition for the Argentinian or the Latin American artists. He says, actually, there is no problem. Since there is not a huge tradition, there is not a big or a heavy tradition, the tradition is the universe, right? And actually, we were talking about that very smart artifact that he placed in his short story, The Aleph, where he placed the entire images of the universe within a in a house in Buenos Aires, right? So the universe.
Buenos Aires city itself, it's like a bigger Aleph also.
Right. So.
Well, I have specific things to say about each film, but I would like to talk with you also, if you want to start making questions.
Yeah, I was curious about the technique in Quarteto and Un Enano and El Jardín, like how those were made. In Quarteto, it says it's from an installation of loops, and the other one also how were you achieving the movement?
¿Cómo se hicieron? ¿Cómo se hicieron? ¿Cómo hiciste?
Técnicamente.
El enano en el jardín y también el Sena o no?
Cuarteto, sí. Un enano en el jardín, específicamente la escena de la rotación concéntrica está hecha con la más pequeña cámara de... Oh, I'm sorry for that. It is made with the smaller Super 8 camera built, that is the Instamatic 22. That is small like this, like a small brick. And I put it in a structure of metal, like this, and I hang it with a thin rope, and the speed of the rotation was made by the twist of the rope. And I didn't know if the camera will still work after that, but it doesn't stop. And this film, Dwarf in the Garden, was a longer one. Its length was half an hour. But when I showed it to people in Buenos Aires, some artists that I respect very much, especially a dancer, she told me, why do you do these things? I don't understand nothing. You have problem of language. And I was very affected by that opinion, and I destroyed almost the whole film. And this is what remains, with the exception of another scene that I used as material to film a new scene like this of Quarteto, making a triple projection and tomando nuevamente the film after I have three projectors here, silk paper, translucent silk paper, and a new camera here. That I have a new film from a sort of installation with loops. That is how Quarteto was done, but only with two projectors, chairs, one with black and white and one with color, of pre-recorded filmed loops with fade in and fade out in each take. No? And they circulated automatically. I keep them projecting the film. I I was taking care of the camera. I did the whole thing alone. Yeah. Well, I must say that technique was my first interest in film. I started as a child. My father and my godfather were collectionists of 35 millimeter films and have 35 millimeter projectors in their workshops. And then I played with the matter film since I was a child. And it was like a native language for me. And I first was interested in techniques, and I thought that I should be a technician for the film industry. But after my first year in the Film Institute, I found that I was not interested in the industry, and I found that I'm poetic in technique also.
Any other questions?
Could you describe the technique of the last film, Deadline?
Yes.
It's not listed on the...
Yes. The technique is very simple. I have one camera that have this possibility of long exposure of each frame. This is an automatical camera, an ISO, that have this position in the exposition set that it captures all the light needed for make a well saturated exposition. I don't know if you know something about analogical photography. Yeah, and I walk through the street of Toronto from the lift to my place, to the place where I'm living, rotating the camera while I was walking. And the lights that I captured was the city lights. That's all. I wanted it to be longer, but it is very slow and it's a very, very slow process. I was doing this for almost a week every night, but it was my deadline. I went there to give a workshop for Spanish-speaking students, and all the cameras was with them at the time, and I have only the camera the last week. Then the speed, the vertigo of this film is such that I call it deadline because I was in a hurry.
Let's have a comment, Maestro, Signore Caldini. What a pleasure, what an honor to have you in our cinema. We are co-op now. Brenda is one of our co-op members. We're now 20 people, Andrew in the back, and we teach in free filmmaking classes to youth. We've done it for 16 years. We've taught over 10,000 kids. And Super 8 is always the gateway to get them excited about cinema and magic and the beauty of touching and feeling. But to see this is taking it to a new level. So we would love to share your work with the kids, the young people in the neighborhood, because I think they need to see this. Because this could be, I mean, I've been making Super 8 films for 20 years and I haven't seen such beautiful things. So I really thank you for your time and your presence. But we want to share this with the world. So maybe we can leave like a DVD, I don't know if we have it, or some sort of, gateway, Vimeo. Do you do that sort of thing? Do you know Vimeo?
I don't know.
All the kids are doing it.
I have a channel there, but a low-tech channel.
Low-tech, well, we want it. Bring it low-tech, high-tech, we want it. We want to share with the world. Yeah, it's so beautiful.
Grazie tante, Paolo.
Yeah, of course. Wow.
I have a very good question about settings.
About?
Settings that
Settings,
you are
yeah.
drawn to. Nature and ruins.
Nature and
And ruins.
ruins.
And I am fascinated by the ruins. What you do with them. There is a lot of love for the ruins there. And you write with cinema. You're not preaching anything. But there is a strong allegorical emanation from some of these films.
Thank you.
And they are so powerful, like Paolo, right? Like Paolo was saying, those Super 8s, they could give sight to a blind person. I mean, it's almost as if a blind person were imagining what it would be like to see. And one really gets into the mystery of light and shadows, some elemental thing. So there is a lot of elemental in your work, whether it's through ruins or vision. It's very distilled, and I find it we all found it very affecting. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. I'm touched by your words. I only can say that I came to know in the last year that my main preoccupation was to be materialist and metaphysical at the same time.
So can you speak a bit about your view of quote-unquote nature? Like, what is it, how do you see it as part of something formed, conceived by humans, by how it is potentially, where it is potentially separate from, if at all? What is it for you as a resource to film?
Can you synthesize it?
¿Cuál es
I speak English and
¿La qué?
la naturaleza para ti?
¿Qué es la naturaleza para mí?
En el contexto con tus películas.
En el contexto de las películas. Well, nature it is also a sensitive surface to light. I mean, trees, plants are a sensitive surface, and also they are like film emulsion, photographic emulsion, and I have that feeling of analogy about that. But also I see that plants breathe, and they even see, when I film nature plants, I see that the things are looking at me. This is very difficult to say, but to explain. But I don't press the shutter, how do you call the disparador? Yeah, Trigger. The trigger. I don't shut the trigger if the things are not looking at me. I have to feel that. I don't know how to explain. But at the same time, I have a lot of formation about painting and color and light and composition. I'm very structured. And then sometimes I feel that my films are very rigid. And today we was not looking to handle camera film, but only this heliografia was done in that way. This is more free. I feel that sometimes I'm very rigid, and I need to become more spontaneous. Yeah.
So in the first film, for example, in Gaudi, in the park, so I was struck by the very first set, which was the close-ups of shots of the one sculptural lizard, but then you go to the real insect that happened to be resting on it at the same time, and it was just like your momentary happened. I assume you happened to see that bug there, but it was this just sort of beautiful moment of contrasting sort of what was there naturally versus the attempt of humans to try to reconstruct it.
Well, it is also how Gaudi was inspired, and I was living in Barcelona. I was 23 years old when I made this film, and I was living in Barcelona for 1 month before make the shooting, and I feel satisfied at the time, but now I think that it's a little short and not showing all the park, and maybe. But what I wanted to say is that the park itself is a film. It's a solid film in 3-dimensional, in the space. You have only go there and make the film, because Gaudí was truly modernist. His architecture is completely influenced by all the end of the 19th century discoveries, and it is already a big film and a futurist film. And all these mosaics are pixels, you know. He desarma completamente la figura para volver a armarla de otra manera.
Put it back together.
Yeah. I was overwhelmed by Gaudí.
How often do you try then to deconstruct the figure completely to put it back together in your films?
How?
How often do you then perhaps pursue that? Do you try to, in some of your films, then try to deconstruct the figure and recreate it?
Well, Claudio Caldini is deconstruction, yeah, and all montage is a kind of reconstruction. But montage is editing is not only an after production process. Montage can be done in camera, as the film on Ruins is constructed in camera. The Ofrenda is constructed in camera, and there is a deconstruction there also, because I wanted to have all points of view in a single film, and at the same time to have continuity, and to have this slow, very slow fade out that was made by the sun at the same time. So I was making a deconstruction, but the sun was doing something natural. And both things, construction and nature, are always interlaced. Yeah.
Do you feel you succeeded in getting all points of view?
All these things that I'm saying, I didn't know at the time. It was an intuitive process, but after many years, I have to start to make theory of what I have done, what I am doing, to teach, to understand myself and my own films, and to explain to others.
If and how the political climate at the time informed your silent poetics. I was wondering if and how the political climate of the time informed your silent poetics, and if you have any advice for artists making and processing art right now in this political current climate.
What was the second part?
If you have advice for anyone, like artists making art now.
About the politics of that time, well, okay. I think that influenced in the way that I take a sort of shelter. I didn't want to live that violence that was happening in the political and social world. Then I became isolated in my own house with my friends and a small group. But at the same time, we were showing these films to other people in political meetings, and there was a lot of discussion about it because they say that our films were not political and were not Argentinian, were not nothing, and they hated us. So I didn't believe on that. I thought that our films were also deeply political, and there was two avant-garde, the political avant-garde that for us was a little literal, and what we were doing required some introspection and some reflection, and it was not immediate to understand. So finally, 30 years ago, we understand each other much better.
Si tienes algún consejo, decías si tenías algún consejo. La segunda
¿Lo
parte.
dices tú o ella?
Ella, la segunda
¿Un
parte.
consejo para quién?
Para los que.
For the filmmakers? Well, I would say almost the same that I said yesterday in university. You have to mastering technique, learning and practice, and to master the technique at the point that you forget it. This is very difficult because nowadays in the Super 8 is more expensive, and you have to practice a lot to understand very few things. And at that time, I filmed a lot, too much, and I throw away to the garbage a lot of film. And that is the way in which I learned. But you cannot do that now. But that was my way of doing things. I don't know if it is good for everybody.
Hello.
Yes.
This is my first Super 8 film seeing the projection of a Super 8. And I'm currently actually working on a short film that I want to shoot on Super 8.
In Super 8? Are you filming?
Yes, well I haven't started, but I would like to.
Well.
And I'm making the music too for it, so it's
right.
very inspiring to see your work and to know that you scored some of it too. I mean most of it, and I just want to say thank you.
Well, thank you.
One final question?
No, we're real quick for this young lady that wants to shoot Super 8. We have cameras here for very cheap. We sell the film, like there's no hard sell, but this is a community resource. So if you want to shoot Super 8, come in. We have cameras, we have projectors. So really let us guide you in that mission because we'd be honored. So come see us, yeah.
Thank you.
But sorry, like question in the back, yeah.
Sí, ¿puedo hacerlo en español?
Habla de español y te traduce
En inglés, te la hago en español. ¿Nunca te sentiste cansado del formato Super 8 y quisiste como cambiarlo, sentir esa necesidad de las nuevas tecnologías que venían y sentir como...
Sí.
Do you ever get tired of Super 8 film and want to dabble into new technologies that were emerging?
Es eso, y si como esa lucha personal de de pensar que un formato todavía tiene vida y puede como seguir investigando en él y a su vez como...
How was that battle between figuring out if you want to continue in that or move on to something new?
¿Qué es lo que te mantuvo en el formato también?
What kept you in the format?
In 1986, Super 8 disappeared from the market in Argentina until 1997, and I started to work with videotape, and I have done many works on videotape. This Heliografía, for instance, is a videotape. The image came from Single 8, that is the Japanese Fuji system for Super 8, and I made a telecine of this 15 seconds or so, or 30 seconds, and made a longer video with it, increasing the color in the chroma key and working on with the dynamic tracking. That was the video, the analogical video, the videotape. Now I was working with digital sometimes, but I have not the high technology because I came late to the digital technology, and to master that, to mastering that technology, you have to study a lot, and to be in front of a digital screen all day is something that is tiring me very much. But I have editing some videos, and I like very much to do mixed media with digital, to put there Super 8, 16 millimeters, and digital images, photography, scanning, analogical video, everything. I have some works in that direction.
One more?
Yeah.
I like that you said that you like it when the plants talk to you, and if they don't talk to you, you don't pull the trigger. And I feel like I could feel that from watching it. Like hearing you say it after watching it, it made more sense why it was so.
A filmar si las plantas no me hablan, dijo, ¿no? Sí. Ya. ¿Ella entendió?
Sí.
Ah, bueno, gracias.
Después de mirar tus películas.
Thank you very much. I must say something to you that are starting to film in Super 8 is that this visual sensation of profundity and relieve. Relieve.
Oh yeah, relief.
Yeah.
Relief?
Yeah. It's the best thing that you can have with the Super 8 image. That you have to find how to exploit that, because it is, if you see a digital image, is flat. The feeling of deepness came there by means of contrast of colors or lights, but the Super 8 all film have a real have a real profundity. That is why we found a real difference between digital images and film images. Well, that is a technical thing, but also a sensation for an artist. You have to find how to deal with it. And that is also a consejo, an advice for new filmmakers.
One more?
Yeah, just a quick question. Did you used to make copies of any of these, or are these the original only?
That is a good question. What you have with reversal Super 8 is that you are watching in the projection the same thing that was inside the camera. I tried to make blow up to 16 millimeters with the film of the Rings, the Untitled, and I was disappointed with the results. Because you are looking something that is better than a negative, because you are projecting it. With 16 millimeters, you will never project the negative or only a copy of it, as a print of it. But with Super 8, I'm showing the camera originals from 1975.
Wow.
And they are intact.
No, they still look great. I just wondered, do you worry about the one time a projector maybe eats a print or break?
You know, this film Ofrenda is a transfer, a digital transfer for Blu-ray. It was published in the Blu-ray in New York. But this film was projected so many times. I was working in a discotheque, and I have a super projector there, and I projected the film on the people who was dancing on the dance floor. And I put it forwards and backwards and forwards, many hundreds of thousands of times. And this transfer was made in 5 years ago, and it is still, you can watch it. But it's a very good question. To print or not to print? To copy or not to copy? But you have to be very careful with this miniature. It is very delicate.
So Luciano, you know the vibe here. Like people can hang out and talk to Signore Caldini. Like you don't have to leave. It's like your second home. So if we're done with questions, I think you just hang out and we can make it informal, right?